Hello and welcome to the Clara Schumann channel, another episode on Do You Like Brahms? How Much Is True? The episode 4, innig, a term the Schumanns used all the time, means heartfelt, inward, very much a theme with the Romantics, and very apt for this episode in Junyan and Song A's story. The episode had so many references to the true story of Brahms' Clara Robert love triangle, talked about the violin sonata that Brahms wrote for Clara when her son Felix died, and I'm also going to talk about the intermezzo that Junyoung plays for Jungkyung when they first meet when they're in middle school. The story of Clara's son Felix and how involved Brahms was in his life is a very long and sad tale. When Robert went into the hospital, Clara was 5 months pregnant with their 8th child. That's right, by the age of 34, Clara gave birth to 8 children. Queen of the piano and mother to 8 children. Brahms came to live with Clara, comfort her after her husband went in the hospital because she was very distraught daily, and it was important she keep calm because she was in her last trimester, so Brahms played her music. When she entered her confinement, it was time for her to give birth. Brahms left, but a week later she wrote him a letter saying, "Please come back, I miss you, I'm so upset that I gave birth to this baby who may never meet his father because his father is so ill." It was 6 months before they were able to name the baby because Clara wanted Robert's opinion on what name they should pick for the little boy. 6 months later, they got a letter from Robert agreeing to what Clara wanted, that they would name him Felix after Felix Mendelssohn, who had just died 6 years before. Clara and Robert decided to make Johannes godfather. Within the next month, Clara left on her first of many concert tours that she had to undertake while Robert was in the hospital because she had to pay for her 8 children and her husband's hospital care. So Brahms stayed and became the closest to a father Felix ever had. Brahms was his surrogate father because Felix did never meet his father because Robert died 2.5 years later in the hospital. Fast forward in time about 20 years, Felix grows up. Of Clara's children, he was the only one who showed an aptitude for really wanting to be a composer like his father. Her daughters all played the piano like Clara did, but Felix decided he wanted to be a violinist. In his early 20s, he started composing songs and writing poetry. Johannes, who by this time realized he was never going to have any children of his own, was exceptionally proud of Felix. When Clara sent him the boy's first songs that he composed, Johannes was so proud that he immediately sent them to the publisher all himself. However, that same year that Felix wrote his songs, they also realized that he had contracted tuberculosis, which in those days was fatal, and that he was going to die young. And so Brahms wrote a song called the Regenlied, means a rain song, sent it to Clara, and Clara loved it. It was very indicative of their tears that they felt at this time. Brahms wrote some very delicate, loving letters to Clara. 25 years after they met, still deeply in love. So eventually Felix did become so ill he died. That summer, Brahms wrote the G major violin sonata. He included in it the melody, the Regenlied, that he'd written the year they found out Felix was going to die. And Clara, she called it her melody. Clara and Brahms both lived a long time. They lived another 20 years past this. They had a lot of fights, but they also kind of developed this relationship of an old married couple who would bicker and then make up. Their letters are very clearly still in love with each other all the way to the very end. Clara developed really bad arthritis, and when she got into her late 60s and 70s, she wasn't able to play the piano as well as she used to. So Brahms wrote her some intermezzo piano pieces that weren't too difficult to play, things he knew Clara would be able to enjoy without struggle. And also Clara's hearing unfortunately deteriorated later in life, so he wrote her slower intermezzo that were gradual progressions of things that she could hear well. And one of those intermezzos is the one that Junyoung plays for Jungkyung when she's first crying over losing her mother. It's the music you hear playing in the background. Some other time I'll tell you the tragic romantic story of Brahms on the day Clara died and him going to her funeral. In my next episode, I'm going to talk about how Jun Young's struggle with his piano career was very similar to what Clara went through, and his apathy towards the difficulties of the touring life, yet the struggle of loving music so much is something Clara dealt with all the time. Look forward to sharing more with you about this really great romantic story and to watching more episodes of Do You Like Brahms? Click like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you like this and or have any questions about things you want to know about Clara, Brahms, and Robert.